Songwriting to me is that you're trying to create the song that you want to hear, basically. Trying to come up with your ultimate melody or feel for whatever tune it might be. And this seems to be just a collection of all your musical influence, growing up. The collection of great songs that you draw upon and have inspired you over the years. I always talk about how the reason the Beatles were such great songwriters was because they learned just so many songs. When they were playing, 8 to 10 hours a night in Hamburg back in '60 and '61 when they got their start, they ran out of Chuck Berry and Buddy Holly pretty quickly playing the 3-chord tunes, and they started learning show tunes, As John and Paul developed their songwriting collaboration, they had this wealth of knowledge to draw upon. Oh, what about, this type of chord change that might open up a new thing for them? So it is really that, all those things that you've taken in over the years, and especially if you've taken the time to learn it, particularly by ear, not just opening up the Mel Bay songbook, which is okay to do to learn a song, but if you sit there with a recording and once you have a certain knowledge of a certain amount of chords, and you can sit there and find the chords that you're hearing, if you learn it in that regard, learning by ear, it's going to internalize in such a different way. You're going to really have that to draw from in the future. But if you learn it with your eyes, it may be gone like you crammed for your test last week, for whatever. So by learning by ear, that's going to really solidify all this musical knowledge that you can draw from in the future. And that's kind of where, I think a lot of the ideas come from. Now, anytime I'm playing the guitar, I make sure I have some kind of recording device nearby. Because if the muse visits and I might play some kind of line, as we were getting sound up earlier today, I played some. So it was kind of a Beatle-y sounding line, but I thought, oh, that's kind of nice. And I made sure that I had my phone nearby. Now all the phones have a little recording app. So I'll get this little nugget of an idea and I'll record it. And then at a later time, I'll go back and try to develop it from there and just kind of keep tweaking away at it. But it's always that quest of reaching for that ultimate sound you've got in your head, the ultimate song you have in your head, and then being very aware of how every little different articulation can give a note different meaning, as far as whether you just we'll give it some vibrato or a slightly different harmonic with the pick, so just really knowing what you have at your disposal to really get the most out of that moment of the song and what you're trying to create mood-wise. Well, certainly it's a little redundant to say that the Beatles have been the soundtrack of our life. That's been put out there so many times, but it's just so darn true. I was born in '63 and I had 3 older brothers, so as the Beatles were hitting America, I was hearing this music since I was in the crib, basically. The things that you connect with in your youth really tend to be the strongest connections you ever have. The Beatles' music has such a joy to it that I think it just transcended so many things. And still to this day, I can listen to the music and just have it be what it is and not be analyzing it. So much of music these days, especially as a musician, and the more your ears grow, it can almost be detrimental in some way, because then you're always kind of picking things apart and listening, oh, that was out of tune, or whatever it might be, or like, wow, how'd they get that? But I can still listen to that music, and it's kind of like it's cathartic, and it's very, it's very comforting in a lot of ways, because because it connected so young, I think, with everybody that they grew up in that era. But it still does connect with youth these days too. I think they always go back, and the stuff that happened in the '60s and '70s still seems to have a lot of weight, a lot of importance. So for me to go down the path of actually trying to reinterpret some of this music, it's kind of like you're trampling on hollowed ground at that point. And because it's so revered, and because I love it so much, those melodies and those songs are so well structured that it doesn't need to be really messed with that much. And that was kind of my approach. I was just trying to give the most honest interpretation of how could I sing these songs through the guitar to have it be, as respectful to the original, but still kind of be in my own way. That's hopefully how it comes out. I hope you enjoy it when you get a chance to hear it.